You're just wasting my.
Hello, welcome to our time and energy management lecture. My name is Michael.
I'm Egan.
I'm Drayson.
I'm Mia.
So before we begin, we're just going to go through an overview. So the first thing we're going to talk about is stress. So just to recap on stress, our previous stress lecture. And then we're going to go into life balance and ways of extreme, followed by time versus energy management. And then we're going to go through some strategies and then watch a video and also do an activity. And then we're going to conclude with the pillars of health.
All right, so first we wanted to ask some questions about how you guys experience stress and also answer some of those questions about us. So the first question, how does it feel to work while stressed? I know when I'm working and I'm stressed, I feel rushed and I feel that I'm not completing my best work, which is irritating.
I usually feel like my head's in another place and like I'm just really not fully here and now doing what it is I need to be doing, whether that's work or exercising or even just spending time with friends and family.
Yeah, I feel really emotional and I get distracted very easily.
All right, thanks guys. How does stress make you guys feel? So I know when I'm stressed, I'm definitely not a pleasure to be around. I get irritated easily and I'm quite snappy.
Yeah, I think very similar for me. I get very irritated. I stress eat a lot, so that's also not good. And that makes me feel sort of bloated or just tired.
I'm just trying to think. It's funny, I have the exact opposite reaction you do, Michael. When I get stressed, I tend to not eat, which just in turn gives me low energy and makes me feel cranky and all of the other things that go associated with that.
So my final question, where in your body do you guys feel stress? So I know when I'm stressed, I definitely feel it in my chest. It feels constrained and just it becomes a little bit hard to breathe. And when I'm stressed, I also become fidgety. So I'll move around with my hands a lot. I'll like fix my hair. I'll touch my face. I'll do all of those things.
Yeah, for me, sometimes I get headaches or my legs get really jittery.
Yeah, I get headaches too, especially I feel like my neck gets tense and sometimes that gives headaches.
Yeah. So what these questions outlined is just how stress is individual to all of us. And now we're going to talk more about stress.
So that, stress, it's a bodily response. We've walked through it. We all gave our own examples. I'm sure you each have your own reactions to stress, but it is a physical response. So it's not just an emotion. You do have a response, and that comes from your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight response. And so since that would be normally useful if you were running from a bear, but it's not so useful when you're sitting in an office building. And so we talked about that in our last lecture, and I just want to retouch on there are coping strategies. Everyone uses coping strategies to manage with their stress, even if you don't call them that. And we would like to recommend low-risk coping strategies like exercise, mindfulness, talking to friends and family. My personal favorite is reading, but we advocate for those low-risk ones just to try and preserve other aspects of your health that come with high-risk coping strategies.
And so now I want to talk a little bit about the ways of extreme. So what the ways of extreme are is basically intense periods of focus followed by periods of distraction. And so an example that I can think of is when you're cramming for an exam, or let's say studying for an exam for like 8 hours at the library, and then at the end of your exam, you binge watch Netflix all day or all night. And so that can pose several problems just because, we don't really want those periods of distraction where we kind of feel things like burnout and procrastination and other things. And so our life is finding ways to balance that. So one of the main factors in finding balance within that is doing and matching your priorities to things that you want and things that you need to do in your life. And so priority matching is really important. And so balancing that with your intense periods of focus and distraction. Yeah.
So something that helps a lot with like controlling your waves of extreme is understanding how time management works versus how energy management works. So we know that time is finite and external, and this just means that you can't control it and it's going to be the same no matter what you do. However, energy is renewable and internal, which means that you have control over it and you can renew it and give yourself more energy to do the things that are important to you by like listening to when your body like tells you that it's stressed out, and by taking care of yourself and your health.
Yeah, and so some of the strategies that we use to try and manage this time and your energy more particularly is prioritizing is the number one. So doing the things that are the most important soonest. It's a relatively straightforward, but sometimes even I don't do it. I'll do the stuff that's not due for 2 weeks or the things that have no due date. And if you do that instead of what I have to do today, it doesn't make any sense, and I don't know why I do it. But so that's why it's a strategy. Another one that comes with that is managing distractions. So when you have low energy slumps to your day, like the afternoon slump for me, I don't have a lot of energy to do the things that I need to do or what I'm doing even just at the time. And so if I limit my distractions, like keeping my phone out of reach, not having a TV on, not playing with my dog, I I can still use that little bit of energy that I do have to get more done or even just to recoup, limit procrastinating, um, back to things that do have a time deadline. If you wait till the last minute to do them, you're either not going to have the energy to do it or you're just going to burn yourself out doing them. And so we can get around all of these things too just by scheduling. So other strategies, this is not an all-inclusive list, but so we have effective strategies. So like taking a break, going out for a walk, making a to-do list, great strategy. Or even something as simple as taking a nap to try and recoup your energy. All of these are effective, and there's more, and these might not be effective for you. I don't like taking naps. That doesn't help me, but that helps other people. But there are some that are ineffective for most everybody, and that's like procrastinating and then working so hard that you burn out. If you use all of your energy to do nonsensical things, the small stuff, or even the big stuff over a long period of time, you won't have the energy to keep going. And if you don't have the energy to keep going, you're not going to get stuff done in the future, which is really not very effective then if you're only working a little bit of time. But so there are effective and ineffective strategies. It's not perfectly cut clear, but just try to think about taking those effective strategies.
So in that same breath, we want to kind of talk about ways to organize. So as students, it can be difficult, especially with balancing everything and just other different extracurriculars, whether it be instruments, sports, or hanging out with friends or other things. And so, when you're studying and tired, take a break. In addition, sticky notes are a great way to just write down things that you want to do for the day. And so you can put it on your binder folder or even on your computer. And so, the sticky note allows you to see everything that you need to do for that day and then create sort of like a checklist for yourself. And then similar to that, a to-do list. So whether it be a day to-do list, a weekly to-do list, or a monthly to-do list, just having that where you can visually see what you need to do for that day is really important. And then finally, for more long-term things or recurring events, calendars are a great resource to use. And so you can see your schedule, your weekly schedule kind of laid out, and then also other things that you have planned. Maybe there's a wedding the next week, and so you can't hang out with your friends that day or things like that. And so you can see everything in advance.
And then another really cool way to manage your time is by making a time matrix. So I'll just walk through it very quickly. So in the top left quadrant, we have things that are urgent and important. So these are the things at the top of your to-do list, like emergencies, tight deadlines. And then next to it on the right, we have not urgent but still important things like your career work and your family time, maybe your personal goals. And then on the bottom left, it's urgent but not important. So this can be distractions, like responding to emails. And then on the bottom right, it's not urgent and not important. So this is busy work and like things that waste your time. So these should be at the bottom of your priority list. So now I'm gonna walk you guys through an activity. So get out a piece of paper and you're gonna make a list of things that you have to do this week. And then you're gonna make a list of things that you want to do this week. So then you're gonna prioritize each of the activities you wrote down with a 1, a 2, or a 3. So 1 is gonna be a high priority, 2 will be like something that's kind of in the middle, and then 3 is a low priority. So when you're like dedicating each thing that you have to do with a 1, a 2, or a 3, keep in mind the due date, how important it is to you, whether it's urgent or not. You can think back to that matrix we just talked about, and then think about how you're going to do it, where you're going to do it, and when you're going to do it. So just pause this video for as long as you need and complete this activity. Cool. So I hope you guys found that helpful. Now we're going to watch a video that talks about how you can like work around your priorities and make sure that you fit everything in.
There's a well-known story about a university professor who wanted to make a point about how we make the most of our time. The professor stood before his class with some items in front of him. When the class began, without speaking, he picked up a large empty jar and proceeded to fill it with rocks about 2 inches in diameter. He then asked the students if the jar was full. They agreed that it was full. So the professor then picked up a box of pebbles and poured them into the jar. He shook the jar lightly and watched as the pebbles rolled into the open areas between the rocks. The professor then asked the students again if the jar was full. They chuckled and agreed that it was indeed full this time. The professor picked up a box of sand and poured it into the jar. The sand filled the remaining open areas of the jar. Now, said the professor, I want you to recognize that this jar signifies your life. The rocks are the truly important things, such as family, health, and relationships. If all else was lost and only the rocks remained, your life would still be meaningful. The pebbles are the other things that matter in your life, such as work or school. The sand signifies the remaining small stuff and material possessions. If you were to put sand into the jar first, there is no room for the rocks or the pebbles. The same can be applied to your lives. If you spend all your time and energy on the small stuff, you will never have room for the things that are truly important. Pay attention to the things in life that are critical to your happiness and well-being. Take time to look after your health, play with your children, go for a run, write a letter to your grandmother. There will always be time to go to work, clean the house, or watch TV. Take care of the rocks first. The things that really matter, set your priorities. The rest is just pebbles and sand.
All right. Well, one of the things the university professor mentioned is a rock is your health. And so now we're going to outline 2 of the 5 pillars of health. So those are the things that make up health. So those 5 pillars are spiritual health, social health, mental health, emotional health, and physical health. Today, we're only going to talk about 2 of those pillars. That's social and physical health. So social health refers to social relationships. So those relationships you have with friends, with family, acquaintances, and these relationships are very helpful in renewing your energy. So say you're a little bit tired from working. A positive coping mechanism to renew your energy is just talking to friends, listening to them, catching up on how their lives are going. Physical health is what we normally think of as health. That's how the body operates, whether or not you feel any aches and pains. And so physical health is incredibly important in terms of time and energy management, because without time and energy management, you feel consistently tired, stressed, and these this environment is not conducive to you completing your best work.
So yeah, that's the end of our presentation. Again, the recap of what we went over. So we went over some questions about stress, and then we went through what life balances are, and then the ways of extreme, and how we want to stay away from the ways of extreme. And then we differentiated time versus energy management, and then went through some strategies. And then we also did an activity, which hopefully you guys have done, and then watched that video on rocks, sands, and pebbles. And then finally, we went through the pillars of health. So now we want to take you guys through the key messages before we wrap up. So time management skills can help you make the most of your time so that you can accomplish tasks and goals. And the second one, time management skills help you feel less stressed. So we thank you so much for listening to our lecture. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
guys.